Inflection? Academic inflection?
Yeah.
Pretension. No, I'm sorry.
I was literally going to say that, and I was like, I shouldn't say that.
No, but I've been there, like I've been there. Because that's that wanting to fit in. You know what I mean? So.
Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast, your favorite arts and culture podcast based in Mankato, Minnesota. My name is Willis Stout.
Hey, Grum here. It is November 9th, and we are here in the solarium.
And I'm your host, Jacob Bases. Today, we are pleased to present Esther Marcella Hoffman, the Poet Laureate of the Living Earth Center here in Mankato and the gallery coordinator at ARTrageous Mankato location. Esther, you want to just tell us a little bit first about what it is. What is ARTrageous? What's going on there? And what you do there?
Sure. In order to do that, I need to go into a backstory. It was started in 2000s. My college. That's when I was in college. And that's when I kind of realized that I really enjoyed creating alternative spaces for people or creative art spaces. Because our college had a lit mag, but I wanted to start one for the undergrads, just kind of to offer maybe more spaces. Mm-hmm. And then throughout my career, I've kind of made a career of creating spaces like that. I had a Spice of Life variety show, which I think was maybe before your guys' time, because it's like, I don't know, but I did it for 10 years, and it was a monthly variety show. We had a comedian, a dancer, and when I say we, I mean me. But I've noticed that people sometimes do that. I'm like, I know you're only one person, but I don't know, the we makes a sound more... presence. But so when I saw that a position was opening in the ARTrageous Center, I wanted to apply because Amanda is the name of the owner, and the mother store is in Minneapolis, where they have camps, they have like art camps, they have birthday parties, and it's basically an art studio, and there's some art that is also sold there. Her son went to college here, and she decided that she wanted to open up another branch here to kind of like have that more variety. Because what I meant to say was like in alignment with that whole, the more varied art spaces you have in a community, the more artists will suddenly appear in that community. And so kind of jumping up and around here, but so... The idea then for ARTrageous is to offer what's called a creation station, which is what she has there, and that's a free art supplies, usually on Thursdays, and people can come in. And it's usually what I've noticed, it's people with like the children with their day caregiver come in for that type of thing. This week we're offering on Thursday a red string ritual, like a new moon, activity. Mm-hmm. It's an activity that's much less intimidating. Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. I'll just be honest, like I'm used to giving interviews. so this is a little different, but I really appreciate the opportunity and understand the importance. So let me see, to get back on track. So ARTrageous is basically... What Amanda has also set up is if you go in there, one side of the wall is Minneapolis artists, and the other side is Mankato artists. For instance, this month's Mankato artist is Space Ghost, so you can come in and see their work this month when the hours are open. And I know that JC Ulrich and Raya recently both had their first shows that they've ever done there. And I'm going to just... My friend Marcus Bean, who comes and hangs out to really describe the space well, when he said that, he goes, this is a really good space for people who are just starting out because it's not intimidating. You can maybe have 9 framed pieces. It doesn't fit, a big crowd. Although I think one time when Rhonda Redmond was having her reading, I saw you and JC outside the window, Willis.
Yeah, that was quite
and you're
crowd.
Like, oh, okay. And you're like, but didn't step in because that it was a little bit crowded, but that was a really beautiful exchange that they were having in there. Mm-hmm. And then, like, for instance, I do have an example of kind of being that alternative space. We had an artist doing a show who described himself as shy. And I think his mom was in there, and like maybe 2 other people were in there with the show. And I looked out the window, and this other artist was like this around the corner, and then just like turned around. And I don't know, I being me, I just went out there and I'm like, "Hey, artist, do you want to come in?" And he was like, "I do. It's just I'm extremely shy." And I was like, "Well, guess what? There's 4 people in there, and the artist is shy." So he came in, and they were both talking, and it was really amazing to watch. 'Cause they were talking about art, like they weren't looking at each other, but I was like, "This is a comfortable space for them," and yeah.
No, that's awesome.
How did you become first involved with ARTrageous? Like you mentioned that were you up in Minneapolis doing work there, or did they just put a job posting for one in Mankato?
Yeah, I saw a job posting on the Facebook, and so I was like, "Well, I'm going to go to apply to that." And Abigail was working there at the time. I knew her, so I peeked my head in there a couple times, and they had these Zodiac. Well, they still have. We still have Zodiac art kits. So it'd be neat to like just pop in there and talk with Abigail, who's also a Sag, as our dear Willis is. And I met with Amanda. I think that Abigail did give a good word for me. So when I met with Amanda, we just really clicked with that. The idea of what needs to be done. The idea of like being an open art space, and also the exchange of Mankato artists, because she'll take Mankato artist art up to Minneapolis, and then obviously the Minneapolis art coming down here, just kind of having that kind of flow. So I applied for a job.
Oh, cool. I mean, that's one way to get them.
Right? Yeah.
What are some of the things about ARTrageous? You talked about it being good for young, like newer artists, but what are some of the other things when you said more art spaces brings more artists and they each have something different to offer? What is another thing that ARTrageous has to offer that you see as valuable from spending so much time there?
Well, sure. And when I was referring to the creation station, is that like if you give people art supplies, that's when their artists come, and that's when more artists show up, meaning the artists within all of us. And to offer, I like the idea of that exchange of like maybe Mankato artists who maybe wouldn't be able or wouldn't get their stuff up to Minneapolis, having their stuff included up there. And sometimes like we kind of think that bigger is better sometimes, like our festivals are huge, right? But like in the old days, festivals would be very intimate, like, and you would maybe practice with your family or something like that. And I think that having kind of the more closed, for example, we did a broom making kit where people would come in and make a cinnamon broom. And what was awesome about that night is that basically couples were coming in or families were coming in, but within enough time where I could sit with each of them, and they each kind of had their own experience. Yeah, and it was really fun. But yeah.
I was even, when you were talking about like scale and how it's maybe well suited for a beginner artist, I was thinking about some of the other spaces we have in town. And like you've got 410 or Carnegie, and they're very different, and what you as an artist would do in them is probably very different too. And so if you were like trying to find a gallery to show in for your first show and you just saw the Carnegie like with those big walls, I could imagine that being like a creatively an obstacle more than an unlock. So the range of spaces, the meeting people for their first show, giving them like a good wall to show on. That seems really, really awesome. And then I like the way that they're incorporating a through line to the cities too, because I think a lot of artists here want or feel like there's something to be gained by networking up there, and there probably is. So it's good to
and having it
have
down
those
here
connections.
too.
It's hard not to draw a parallel to Sidetracked as well, because of the availability of art supplies.
Art for all, at Sidetracked.
How is that possible? Is it donation based, or does the business turn around and purchase supplies for it?
Yeah, well, I think with Patty, it's donation based. Patty Rusk at Sidetracked, but
we love Patty.
Well, of course, yeah. I think with Amanda, it's her art store supplying the supplies.
Oh, really?
So yeah, like
That's awesome.
the cinnamon brooms and like kits and stuff like that, and paint. And for on 11/11 for Veterans Day, we're gonna have you can come in and make a thank you card. You know what I mean? That's all supplies that she has at the store. And yeah, and I love Sidetracked. Like that's another very unique, art space like that. And I'm involved with Patty as well. I think I'm kind of a free flyer, but yeah, so just having that. And I wanted to mention the Carnegie that you're talking about, because I went there and then I went to the Tandem Bagels, and I love that within just one block, because the Tandem also has art up. All these spaces, like all these businesses that do showcase art, it's really pretty special thing,
Yeah, even the wine cafe too has been showing stuff too, and so like I, as a regular there, enjoy seeing art from people. It's really neat. And to your point about like connect it, or like more art opportunities results in more artists. Like I guess even in the awareness of ARTrageous and Sidetracked, I don't feel like they're in competition so much as like supporting a larger community. So it's really beautiful that we can kind of do that, and the art specifically offers spaces for that.
And I would speak for Amanda and Patty both, saying that they're definitely about collaboration, and the more the better.
Yeah.
What is overall the mission statement or goal of ARTrageous? Not just here at Mankato, but I mean they're expanding. So what does it do?
Sure. I was hoping that Amanda was probably going to give me a mission statement to read, but that didn't necessarily happen. So I'm just going to wing it because I know that she trusts me. Okay. And I think it would be just that supporting the artist in all, and like they do all sorts of shows up there, feature all sorts of artists. And maybe I think it's like supporting artists, and even like with me, like supporting me as the curator, and trusting me, like that's kind of an art too. But yeah, Amanda's a Sag as well. We're just gonna point out all the Sages in the room.
That's cool.
But I think it's about creating space, which is definitely something that I feel like my life has been devoted to. And then definitely I think ARTrageous, like not only creating the space, but offering the supplies, and that's kind of support. Because it's really, I think there's a meme or something where it says like the art of creation is much more important than the result. And I think that sometimes we lose the sight of that. And I think creating is a really good way to connect with ourselves. And then obviously if you're creating in a room, like eventually what we hope to do, like I was talking about those Zodiac kits. Eventually what we hope to do is be like, hey, are you a Sag rising or a Sag sun? Come and get a kit and make art with other Sages, or, that type of thing. Just bringing people together who maybe wouldn't normally come together. And then just that idea of that connection with self through creation, creating community, even like the materials themselves, that could be connection with earth, depending on what you're using. And our imaginations, bringing that forth.
We talk a lot about like the spaces that exist around too, and there's some people are like build it and they'll come, and other people are like, do you sense that there was a demand for this and that they've sort of showed up to fill it, or is it an example of something where like there's a strong idea that we want to support local art and make this a space, and it kind of we'll create the space and then we'll see if it works? I guess the question then is like, how have you seen it working? I know you mentioned like we've had a couple new shows, new artists showing there. Like what's the community saying about this space? Like what do people like about it?
Excellent. Well, to paraphrase Amanda, what she saw was a community already here, and that's something that she wanted to be a part of, like seeing everybody kind of working together. For instance, like with Sidetracked, we're kind of trying to set up something where like an art hop, where maybe you create something at ARTrageous and then you go down to Patty and add something to it. kind of that kind of exchange. So that's that community. How I see people using it is kind of sometimes just like as a hangout as well. Because like a lot of artists, and also seeing artists that maybe that you haven't, or meeting other artists. Like Emily Stark comes to a lot of the shows to meet everybody, and she's kind of a showstopper. So it's kind of funny sometimes how the energy will shift towards her because, she's got that thing, Yeah. Have you had her on before?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
We also love Emily.
Oh yeah. Team Emily. But not even a team. We're just for Emily. But, so, just kind of artists meeting artists. It was really neat to watch when when Raya came in and Emily came in and kind of like the old artist saying to the new art, or not necessarily new artist, but your first Showtime artist, kind of like giving suggestions on how to price, so that was kind of neat little mentorship, like an instantaneous mentorship right there in the studio, which was kind of neat. And I hope that we get more people coming in and out because like the 410 is just down the block, because like for instance, Patty is getting a lot of references here. Patty on 11/11 is having her show at the 410 just as the activity at ARTrageous is ending. So cool. You could almost make a little night of that as well. So yeah. So like just kind of being another space, and maybe community members, the benefit is coming and finding maybe a new aspect of yourself, like in a new space. Cool. Yeah.
I like that a lot. I think that diverse range. Go for it.
Oh, I just wanted to add, like the other night, this young artist came in and showed me her portfolio and asked if she could do a show there. And I'm like, yes, we have January free. And she's like, oh, I need to frame these. I'm like, hey, here's Sidetrack's bookmark. Why don't you go on down to see Patty? And then the next day I went to go visit Patty, and that artist was there, and she had she had framed her picture and put $120 on it. And yeah, you know what I mean? That's just kind of like what I like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. It's like music, if you got just one show happening in a night, you've got one option, you might go. But if you got a couple shows, you might go see what's going on.
Yeah.
You can go bar cruising or whatever people are into, Yeah. Welcome to the Triple Falls ad read. This is where I tell you a little bit about what we offer, because we're a production company. We offer video services, production stuff, sound, lighting. You could even have a podcast that looks like ours if you wanted. Speaking of the podcast, if you'd like to connect with us and ask us questions, send us guest recommendations, or even sponsor an episode, connect with us at cast@triplefalls.org.
We talk all the time. We just had our 100th episode, the last episode before you, and one of the main themes that kept coming back was just how cool it is in Mankato, how like all the scenes are melded together, and like everyone goes to everything. Like lots of musicians are involved in the artist community, lots of artists are involved in the musician community, and everyone just supports each other. It's like one of my favorite parts of being here.
Yeah. Let's keep that going.
Heck yeah.
Let's keep you here.
How, if in any way, has this working with ARTrageous affected your own personal art practice?
Well, because I think I was one of those people who think I can't draw. You know what I mean? And that goes in and out. Do you know what I mean? But then when I'm sometimes doing activities with people, I'm just like, do you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm having so much fun, and guess what? It actually looks pretty good. So I think kind of just allowing like that space and creating that time to kind of get over this false belief that I can't create visual art, So that was pretty special. That's worth.
I was thinking even to add to that having spaces like ARTrageous and Sidetracked do a great job of giving people the like stepping stones to getting into something.
Right.
Because like if you got like one bougie art store and then like Hobby Lobby or something, like you're not gonna have a cool art scene. But if you got a bunch of cool galleries and cafes and bars showing art and supporting a local scene, like that's how we make something pretty awesome. So
true. And you're going to also get kind of that one-on-one support and encouragement as well. Yeah.
What we mentioned Jacob was asking about how it's impacted your art. curious to talk to about the poetry you do.
Oh,
'Cause
yes.
you're a poet also. Is that at all affiliated with ARTrageous, or is that sort of a disconnected at
I
this
was
point?
born a poet. So
Because that's what you are, but you're also representing ARTrageous here
yeah,
too.
well,
So
and this is the amazing thing of her, because my first book, Love Note to Gaia,
yeah,
Love Note to Gaia, that I self-published, which we can talk about later on too, about the self-publishing. Amanda was like, hey, let's promote your book. Why don't you just have a night where you can have that. And another really cool thing about ARTrageous is obviously, we need to make rent or whatnot, but like there's also kind of this laxness where like I'm gonna just I can just name somebody too, right? So James Mackey wanted to come on in and show his work, and he didn't want to sell anything, and she's like, well, that's fine, just let him use the space, you know what I mean, and whatever. That kind of takes off pressure too, I think, where it's like, hey, come in, and artists do sell their work there. But there's kind of like that less pressure of like where it's more of like a capitalist, let's make some money thing. Do you know?
Yeah. Well, how does the place make rent then? Like what is?
Oh yeah, through purchases.
Oh sure, exactly.
Through capitalism, Okay, but yeah,
Well, I didn't know if there was maybe like a work model.
God,
or
that would be
something.
awesome. We could figure that out. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Back to the poetry though.
Yes.
What is your? So you are the Poet Laureate at the Living Earth Center.
And sometimes people don't know what Poet Laureate means, and
please.
I don't know if you want me to explain
No,
that
I don't know
space.
what it means. I would love to.
All right then.
that.
Well, okay, you over there, over in the back. All right. And this actually starts with Patty as well. So Patty's partner Lisa Coons. I don't know if you guys were around when she was here. Well, she was the director of the then it was called the Earth Spirituality Center, but it was still up on the hilltop. And Lisa would ask me to come and do poems like for their solstice and stuff. So this was back in the early aughts as well. So I was kind of unofficially the Poet Laureate there for like 3 decades, or not 3 decades. No. Well, I don't know the math, but that's not the right math because I'm the word person. But and then eventually, it got I think it's Melissa Wright now, who basically said, hey, why don't we officially make you the Poet Laureate since, you've been doing poems for festivals. So it's basically doing poems for events and then also facilitating writing workshops. So that's kind of what the Poet Laureate position means there.
Sort of like an in-house poet.
An in-house poet, yeah. Nice.
What does laureate mean? Is there like a definition to that word?
Oh my gosh, I wish. I love epistemology, and I wish I could tell you right away. It was the Latin root word for laureate. But I feel like it's just like the definition is honorary poet. Like the United States has, there's the phones. Good job, guys. Get on it.
Laureate.
Let's word this up.
How do you spell
This is
it?
the tech corner. You guys interviewed
You got it.
But it's usually like the U.S. has a poet of honor, and like what they do is they write poems for occasions.
Okay.
Alrighty,
So,
guys.
yeah.
I got an official Google
let's
definition
hear.
here. A person who is honored with an award for an outstanding creative or intellectual achievement.
All right, but what's the Latin root? Okay, is it a Latin root? That's where you get the true meaning, though. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but it's okay.
Lore, I was thinking.
I just wanted to challenge you.
Lauris.
Lauris. Oh,
Or Laurea.
yeah.
Or
Like
Lauritus.
laurels. Like laurels, like a laurel.
Oh,
wreath.
you're like crowning
So it's an
someone.
honor. Oh, that makes sense.
I was thinking that or lore, but that was more to the like poetry
and
part.
it's Lau.
La.
Yeah.
Rest on your laurels.
No wonder.
Yeah, but we mustn't get lazy.
Oh, cool. That's exciting.
Cool.
That seems like a neat spot to be in too.
Oh yeah, and yeah. I mean, that's the gardens. That's the food. That's the getting in the dirt and
Well,
bringing forth the goodness.
When did this book launch? When did you write this, and when?
Sure. So I started writing this during COVID.
Okay.
And I think it was for an event. The title poem "Love Note to Gaia" was for one of the Living Earth Center events.
Okay.
So yeah, Yeah, and it's just about Earth, like being in a. It's basically about being in a body on a planet and the joys and horrors of that. Because as you guys know, I had a little near death. I don't know if you guys remember that back in 2019 with a little necrotizing fasciitis to shake things up. And what's funny about it's Anne Sexton's birthday, and she has this quote where she says, "I wonder if artists ever live their lives because they're so busy recreating them." Which is kind of interesting because at the time I was making a movie, if you remember, the I Am the Moment. And it was about me, getting over my biggest trial at that time, which was a relationship breaking up and kind of like my whole life kind of starting over because everything kind of had to end because of that. And the universe, is a great writer because spoiler alert, I got necrotizing fasciitis, which obviously went into that movie. And I'm just amazed sometimes what life actually comes up because you can't write that. You can't write that. You can rewrite it, but can't make it up.
I don't know why, but I thought you were writing I thought you were making a movie about hiking.
Yes.
That was the one
Because
before? Did I miss a movie?
No. Okay, so because my life I kind of said that my life broke up with me because basically everything that I can't go back sometimes. Those are called tower moments for those of you into the tarot. And so what I realized was I had forgotten all these parts of me. Like, oh my God, oh my God.
You can
So
swear.
you can swear away.
I love to hike.
Just really let him rip.
What's that? There's no...
Yeah, no, cuss it.
No, you can rip him all night if you want.
Nice. Maybe I'll save that maybe. So I wanted to hike. So that's where the hiking came in. Because I was just basically realizing all this stuff. And I love filmmaking, so that's kind of how that all happened. And yeah, so.
Yeah, did it come out? I never caught it.
Oh, really?
I saw it.
You
Oh, wait, no, actually I did.
stuffed yourself into
Because it
that
was at the
little...
library.
Yeah. I know there was I didn't know that 40 people would show up or whatever, so we're all in that little room. But no one left, maybe because they couldn't. I don't know, but...
I couldn't leave. I was stuck, actually. I was stuck in the corner.
Because your buddy Alec has a cameo in that. So I was like, I know they came to see that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Man, yeah. We've been acquaintances for quite a while now, and I've caught a lot of your projects now.
We've exchanged
thinking
plants.
about it. Yes.
Wow.
We have. They've lived and died even.
Would you possibly want to read one of your poems?
Yes,
to us?
of course. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and can I just mention one thing about poetry too? So I think poetry itself is also that space, and I know sometimes people think they're not poets, but everyone has a poem in them. Oh, what's all going on?
We're getting ready for your read.
Something's happening. Okay, I'll just focus on Jacob.
Yes.
He's the calm item. What are you supposed to? But so throughout my life, I've had chances of being published by publishers. And this is where I wanted to talk about being the power of your own press, which I think you guys, 1, 2, 3 camera or two behind so many cameras, realize that power of being your own media, getting out your own messages. And so 3 times in my life, I've had a publisher and something, went wrong. And then this last time, I just realized, you know what, I'm just going to publish it myself. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of being self-published. Marcus Bean did the art for this. And let me think. Should I just flip and do one?
Yeah.
It flipped to the goddess of violent death. We'll save that one.
Yeah. Aww.
Here's a nice
Big
little
fan.
one called We Human. And later on, we're going to be talking about loser poetry. So I'm just going to say I submitted this poem as a video and was told, sorry, you're not a good fit for us. So I'm very proud to read this poem. If that's coming out of nowhere. So many cameras. All right. We human, evict each dystopia, live beyond legends, mystify the myth of powerless to system, only worship the temples we are breathing, leave news feeds unfed, eat new fruit, heathen our blood, Be powerful, not safe. We jump the gates of internet thiefdom, avert avatar, reclaim life force, unbrand, pronounce names as heartbeats, pounce on paradigms, tear them with ancestor teeth, no longer wallow in shallow puddle ideologies that distract from the chest swell of oceanic truth. Do not cancel our shadows, nor create projectiles to hurl at human mirrors. We integrate this guidance into soul brilliance. In defiance of advertisement, we experience bodies as Gaia's gift to spirits. We cleave the globe and exalt the world. That was called We Human. Oh, good crowd. But yeah, all right then.
That was nice. It was very. You use a lot of inflection in your voice. You don't do that like academic poetry voice thing, you know.
But I could if I wished. I was very into that.
Is there a word for that?
Inflection? Academic inflection?
Yeah.
Pretension. No, I'm sorry.
I was literally going to say that, and I was like, I shouldn't say that.
No, but I've been there, you know, like I've been there, because that's that wanting to fit in, you know what I mean? So
I liked it. I like when things move and
yeah, it's about performance too. You know, poetry is a spoken art as well. So yeah.
Tell us. You linked it to this loser thing
Yes.
right beforehand. Tell us about how you were telling. Tell us about how you were a loser and about this event.
Okay. Oh wow. Yeah, I love it. Can we show the poster? That's going to be impossible?
Shake him for the killer segue.
I'm very proud of that. So a loser thing. So basically, again, this is about creating spaces for people who maybe don't win awards. So Rhonda Redmond, you guys know her, St. Peter Alive. I was on an interview with her. And I was making the point about how you can have yourself as your audience, you know, like there are troops in India who would perform for hours and they weren't performing for anybody. They're performing for the gods. It's like the act itself is its own reward. And, you know, like, and then the next day after that interview, I opened up my mailbox and the Mississippi River Poets had sent me a check because I totally forgot I had entered one of their contests. And I took that $40 and was very grateful and went and bought my family some good food. I think it was anyway, but it was just interesting for me because on that interview I had made that point, like yourself, like people forget that we can be audience enough for our art. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like Emily Dickinson wrote all these poems. Like she did get some published in her lifetime. She wasn't a total recluse, but she had all these drawers and drawers of poems that like who was she writing to? You know what I mean? That was her. That's that specialness. Sometimes there is an emphasis on. Like I said, I forgot that I had entered that contest or whatnot, but like sometimes I'll just send things out just because it's fun. You know what I mean? And I don't mind the rejection. So like, I guess so loser defined by Webster, right, is the opposite of a winner or I'm not always a winner. You know what I mean? But full transparency, I appreciate it when I do win contests. That's lovely. But, I think at some points in my life, I was like, am I a poet? And then I was like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean I wear black? Or
I could be a poet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is kind of like I think it's a young question. It was like a young question for me, and I think everyone maybe has to ask that question. But it's like if you write a poem, you're a poet. You know, it's like the action is what it is. But I think sometimes there's this like, well, no one wants to publish me. You feel like a loser because you're not winning contests, or like there's kind of an emphasis on that. You know what I mean? Of like, well, like. Sometimes people will even start like this poem won this contest. You know what I mean? And I was like, be like, this poem didn't win anything. You know? Yeah.
So I do. There is that. There's like an academic thing with poetry, though. It's like like people think that appreciating it requires some level of different understanding. Like someone has to tell you it's good or something. You know, I don't know what it is, but like people don't like. Show you in the same way. Like you see art all the time. You know, I see artists on Instagram showing me like really young work, but I don't see like on social media really young poems and people aggressively claiming poetry. And I think that, you know, that's something else. There's something culturally there, but I would say the same thing I would say to an artist is like aggressively claim it if it's what you want for yourself at all.
Yeah,
Really?
all it
Yeah,
takes
though.
is to claim it. If you identify as an artist, I would say you are.
Yes. Yes.
Or
But-
if I
and- but if
identify
you're-
you as an artist.
Specifically Jake.
Yeah.
Can I just get that in writing before I go? But Jacob said. But yeah. But exactly, yeah. So when I felt like a loser, as you're saying, is when I was getting caught up in that kind of game and kind of like, pretense. And I do think that in every kind of profession, people get a little bit protective or something, or there's kind of like, because I was a philosophy minor, and people would always talk up here, and this one guy in class never got it, and I'm like, you guys, you can say it like this, and then he's like, oh, but it was like there was kind of like you want some exclusivity, which is probably just our human fear of death.
So what's the retreat about?
Coward.
Face it.
Is it
So the retreat is the idea that people who like want to come in and like trying to make it unintimidating, and we're trying to be funny too.
You've succeeded.
I've
You've succeeded.
succeeded. Yeah, I'm a hand model as well. So the idea is to come in, just share. We're going to have someone present, like kind of a presenter just talking about what the poetry loser thing is like, and it's like, like you say, it's like that claiming that you are, whether you get awards, whether you don't, whether you want to share your stuff. Like some people just want to come in and write poetry. They don't necessarily want to speak it, you know, but so it's offering that space to speak that if you want. And we're having what's called a work play, which is a play on words for workshop, and or play shop. I kept the work in there. What the heck? Where's my poster?
Play shop.
Okay, but so probably just kind of having some fun and creating something like spontaneously on the spot. One of the things I most enjoy is doing what's called a group poem, where everyone writes together, and I think in art it's called a glorious corpse, where you don't see the other person's line. And creating a poem like that. And then just having a word share. People can share poems that, and I do like the idea of a poem that has not won a contest. You know what I mean? Or a poem that someone told you like, it just doesn't work for me.
You should read some of my poems.
Well, why don't you come and read some of your poems?
I've just never entered. I feel like less of a poet because I've never been rejected at this point.
Right? You don't know the pain. Right with that. And I wanted to say, I think you had said something about poetry. Your question, but talking about like poetry kind of has to have that magic too. Do you know what I mean? So even if people don't get you, that's okay, because a lot of poets who weren't gotten, you know, after they died, don't fear that death, okay? That will bring you fame. But like after they died, everyone's like, oh my God, this is brilliant. You know what I mean? So like because a lot of poems are very straightforward now. You know what I mean? Like, and I think people like that because that's very relatable. And then you have like the Dadists where they're really playing with language, you know? And then you have Anne Sexton, whose birthday it is, who was able to do both. Because there is a craft to it as well. You know what I mean? Like, and there is an art to it, but at the same time, don't deny. It's like me trying to. It's my problem. I need to get over this. Me trying to draw. Me drawing.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And that is art too. And I appreciate it. And I think a thing about supplying space or whatever, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you an audience, because like an audience is a completely different thing. You know what I mean? And for me, I like taking my book and going somewhere and actually connecting with somebody. I think when I did the opening for Love Note to Gaia, a man came up to me and he said, when I hear your poem, I feel like it belongs to me. He goes, and not many poets can do that. And I felt like, well, freaking Whitman. You know what I mean? I was like, yes, my brother. We are one. Every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. That's Walt Whitman, not mine. But you know what I mean? Like, that's a special thing. Otherwise, I kind of feel like you do have to go with, I'm doing this for me. Otherwise, you're going to feel like a loser.
Yeah.
And if you do, come to our retreat December 4th at the fill-in station, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.
I might have to go.
I hope you do. Oh my God, you'd be so fun.
Yeah.
You can keep that flyer, okay?
Yeah, thank you. I'll study.
But yeah, so
Heck yeah. Well, are there any other things we would really like to make sure we're touching on before we send you off?
sure. I would just like to say that if you feel that you are an artist, you are. And if you want a space that's created for you, come to ARTrageous or be within your own art, be within your own poetry, do the drawings, make that happen. And I want to thank you guys for providing this space for me. Even though I sometimes get a little bit uncomfortable being the interviewee, but thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Where can we find various, basically everything you talked about, and then like, is there any social shout outs or anything like that you'd like to give?
Sure. I think that I did send you guys the link for the ARTrageous Instagram. Please like it. And then I have my YouTube, which has my films on it. And then I think I had the Butch. I keep saying that. Probably some Freudian slip thing. The book patch. You can order my books. I also have The Goddess of the Compass on there. And I don't know if that would be with the video or not. But and then I'm Esther Marcella Hoffman with 2 N's on Instagram. And I might as well just say also E-Star Tarot on Facebook.
Yes.
Beautiful.
We'll talk about all the Sages. All the Sag.
And ARTrageous is on Front Street. What's the?
Yes. 632, right attached to the fill-in station. And and like I said, the 410's just down the block. The Once Read bookstores across the street.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a good little spot for a little. It's becoming more of a hangout over there.
Vortex.
Yeah, I love that.
Pulp's over there too. I like Pulp.
Who's that?
A comic book collectible trading
gosh,
card store.
They're right across and that was one of the reasons. I think Amanda was saying, like, working with them too, like that was one of the reasons why she wanted to have a franchise down here.
Yeah, I know their manager.
So Amanda, I hope I did you
great.
proud. I hope you're watching. What's that?
Oh, no worries. I know their manager Corey, and he's great. They've
Yes,
ordered a lot
Corey,
of.
yeah.
They've ordered many a board game for me.
Oh, good. Yeah, and that's a space too. Yeah, because you can go play there.
Yeah, and you can even test play, and then they also obviously provide a space for like all the hobby nerds in town to come try out their various hobbies, like me.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. It was great to chat.
You.
Bye.
All right.